Welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream, we work on Django apps. I'm going to continue on my journaling app. Wow, I can't speak tonight. I got to get over that. And we're going to continue on a Stripe integration that we've been working on, and we've been working through various pieces of this. But I'm hoping to finish off most of it this evening so that we can move on to other aspects that will allow us to open up sign up for the application. So if you never joined in before, this is a journaling application, and it works via email. So it sends out prompts and users can reply, and it builds up their a daily journal for them for an entry for each day. And that's something that I've been using daily myself. I'm kind of the first user, but we want to make it available to others. And in order to do that, we need to be able to make it possible to create Stripe accounts so that they can pay and all of that sort of stuff, because this will be based on that. This stream works such that every line of code is done live here for this particular project. So you can see the entire journey, although I did do this a little bit offline. So that seems maybe like a lie, but it's not code. So I feel there are some things that I have to do offline, like setting secret tokens and stuff like that I can't show. But I try and walk through everything I can. You're welcome to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. And let's talk a little bit about what this is. So I thought it'd be useful to give an explanation of this whole flow that we've been doing with Stripe, because there's a lot of moving pieces to this to make all of this flow work out. We've been talking, this is probably now the third or fourth stream of multiple hours of working through a Stripe integration. And it's because there's a lot going on in order to interact with the service that's going to be collecting payment and all that kind of stuff. So this is a diagram that is done using the Mermaid syntax, which is available on GitHub, and allows you to draw all sorts of different kinds of diagrams. And this kind of diagram is called a sequence diagram. So what I've presented here is the flow of all of the bits to make this go. And we have done, I think, basically everything up through what step listed as step 14 here. Those numbers might be a little hard to see on the stream, but these are numbered sequentially, and this last one is step 14. And we've got a little bit of left to do. Well, I guess we haven't quite done everything. There's a little bit left to do about actually setting the accounts to use the new information that comes back from Stripe, and we need to be able to check that out and test it. And there's some other little odds and ends here that we've got. I left this in a state where things were not passing. So I want to first get back to a working state, whatever's changed, and that way we have a working test suite, because that's important to maintain throughout this project. And then once we have that back, then we can move on to these final checkboxes here. So there's a little bit of test stuff we want to start with, and then we'll look at the rest of it. Okay, so let's start with whatever was broken. We're on this Stripe branch, which I built specifically because I wanted to be able to check in so people could see, but it meant that we checked it in with broken tests, which I'm not thrilled about, but that's okay. So we need to figure out what's missing. So we've got a couple things. Some tests are broken because there's data that is now expected by some of these views that was not previously expected, and there's also this idea of missing coverage in a handful of areas that we need to test. Curiously, we're missing coverage in a test file, so I don't know what that means. We'll have to figure that out. Or it's probably a test that I started that maybe doesn't do anything. So let's start by fixing up the broken tests, and then fix the coverage problem, so we get ourselves back to 100% coverage, and we've tested all the functionality we need to, and then we can move on to the next piece. So test number one that's broken, I guess, if we come up to this list, well, it doesn't really matter which one. We need to do, this is a test of the index page. All right, so let's go to our code and get out of here, tooltip, you're in the way. We want to go to the test views of the core, which is where this index view is. And we've got a gateway here. I'm trying to reorient myself. It's been a couple weeks since I did this, but I think it's this thing right here that's failing. Yeah. So one of the things we added, if we go to the actual index views, Lopez, I do still have the homeschool app running. I've not, and then I actually periodically will do the package updates. That particular project I did not commit to do fully on stream, but it seems to be working okay, and I'm more invested in trying to get this app up and running and in a usable state so that others can sign up for it and get the same benefit that I am getting out of it. And then I'll return to the homeschool app at some point in the future. But it's kind of doing what it needs to do for my handful of users that are there. So thanks for the question. I'm not actively working on it, but I'm kind of keeping it going in the background. All right, so let's take a look at the views and see what we did. We are using this particular index page, and we're using this gateway. And this gateway is where the problem in this test is coming up. The gateway is assuming that this price attribute is available. And actually, I think I just got rid of the gateway. I closed it. So let's take a peek at the gateway itself and see what it is. So it's looking for a price object in the database that is based off of this particular price lookup key and the Stripe live mode. We talked last time, we were looking at Stripe, and we configured the price object, and I think we previously called this the nickname, but the nickname is like, no, it's not either not called that in Stripe anymore, or it was never called that, and but Stripe has a more convenient thing now, and it's this lookup key. It's this idea of, on the Stripe side, there's an association, this thing you want to be using, the key, and then we use DJ Stripe to pull out down our data in our database. So this is getting us the right price that we've got configured in the actual Stripe dashboard. So in order to get our test to work again, we need to have a price that matches that lookup key, which is really what we're after. And I can't remember if we built a factory for the price or not. So that's the thing to check. Let's see, is there a price factory? Is that something we built? We did. Okay, cool. So we've already got the price factory that has this lookup key attribute, which is, so we want this thing right here. And we want that in our index test. So we need it as a bit of data that we would want here. Then we need to bring in the price factory and the actual key. So does my refactoring tool tell me, does it have a code? No code action available. So it doesn't know where that is. That's fine. This should be under payments, gateway factory. So we'll do from journal payments test factories, import the price factory. And then we need the settings. So that's going to be from Django conf import settings. All right, with any luck, that's the only change that's required in order to make this index page work. Let's check it out. And that's true. And this is the other one that was failing, no doubt. Both of them now require a price. So I try not to, like, you could in many ways solve this in many ways. So one thing I could do is I could make a fixture here like I do the publishable key. In fact, I probably in this case should do that because we'll use it for the entire class. Because it's going to be needed anytime we are trying to do this index. So rather than just copy and paste it a bunch of places, let's quickly make the price available to us. And so we'll say it will have a price fixture. And I guess if we never needed to do anything with it, we would need to return it. So we can do, let's get rid of, how we can do this? Let's take this and go like that, outdent it, and call it, where this is the actual object, the instance is what we want to yield back if the fixture ever needed it. So we've got that. And then we want to say with use fixtures, I think it can do like comma separated here. And we can say price is the fixture. So that is a locally scoped fixture. And with any luck, we can go test. And we've got these two tests that now pass because they're both using this price fixture automatically. So it's not quite as clear as having it directly built into the test, but it's also, it's not typically terribly unclear either by having it being put on the class, especially since this is a pretty small class. There's just the two tests right now. But that's not all of the tests though. So there's another test somewhere. So I used to have a command for test the whole suite, but maybe I turned that off. It used to be my leader command with what am I trying to say? It used to be my leader command with the space or the S character. So test nearest. Maybe I got rid of it because I never used it. Because I switched it to a different purpose for the leader S. Okay. So I don't have that handy anymore because most of the time I don't use it, but we'll run our coverage here again. And I think there was one more test that was failing somewhere, so we need to go find where that was. What is this that's failing? So this is in test index authenticated. Okay, where are you? Accounts tests. Ah. Hey John, good to see you. Welcome back. We got one more test to fix. And maybe this is a reason, well, okay. I have a love-hate relationship with PyTest. I think it's simultaneously really cool, but at the same time, it does some things that I'm not crazy about. Like, I don't actually like the way this is kind of magically. So if you look at this, I look at this and I've been a PyTest user for years, so I know what it means, but it's essentially saying you're going to run this publishable key function and the price function for every test that you have. And that's not very obvious. And these two fixtures are only available in this particular file. So the thing that we need to do is perhaps bring this particular fixture up, or I might just use the price factory directly in that one test over there. Gabriel, let me look at your comment here. Can I make the terminal top bar color the same as the editor? I have stupid YouTube comments of, there's a heart right over it that says, right over where you have no break something. It says, I can't see that. So I'm going to put in a dummy message here. Sorry, I'm going to junk up the stream because I can't, because YouTube's being stupid. So let me see, YouTube. I literally can't see my comments. No breaking the default theme, just the top bar. Is that a request because you're having a hard time seeing my terminal? Not sure. Can you make the top bar color the same? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, curious why you're interested in that. Maybe I've never experimented with that. I usually don't mess with my editor too much on stream, but I could be persuaded. So I think we want the price object on this other view test. So let's go to the accounts test views. And it's this test that's failing right here. And it's trying to do the session checkout. Okay. And the reason it can't do that is because it gets into, it's calling create checkout session, which is hard to see. All right, sorry y'all. Accounts views. Let's go over there. Because we created a payment gateway and we had to pass in, we also needed the price ID. So what's the session doing? At some point, does it use it? What's going on? Oh, okay. Nope, I just had a broken test that I left there. I think this is where I truly ended, and we just didn't finish the test. So it's something about this view that's not finished yet. You can see here that this particular, we've got some to-dos here that this is not done. All right, I get it now. So what should we do next? We need to make our test do something more meaningful. So wow, man, this really doesn't even make any sense at all. We have one view defined, and we've called this class test index. That's the first thing that's confusing. That's not what we're testing. We're testing the create checkout session. Well, that's the first thing we can correct. I must have just put this in here to have something to test to remind us later, and then I wanted to call it, and then we let it blow up, and then I ran out of time. That's got to be it, because this test makes no sense. If we do a post to this, I think the one thing that is correct is it does need to be a 200 response. That's true. And the thing that we need to check out of here is that we have the session ID. That's the test. So we need to assert that the response, oh, we don't have a JSON attribute on this response, do we? Shoot. What? That's something I got from Django Test Plus. I thought my other project uses a tool called Django Test Plus, which might provide a different client that automatically wraps up the response. Response? Does it not know what that is? All right, hold on. Django project. So this should be a test or an actual HTTP response, which I don't think is going to have. I think we're going to have to get the content on there. That's the request. We want the response object. Down here, we can get the data out of it. Yeah, so here's the content as a byte string. But that's a big pain to because now to get the test to go well, we need to get the bytes out, do a JSON loads from the response. I mean, we can do all that, but it's kind of stupid. Let me see if, but I also don't want to bring in this other package just for this. So maybe there's a utility that we can write here that can save us from an extra dependency. So let's look at Django Test Plus for a minute, see if I'm remembering this correctly. That we want to be able to assert on content. I'm also now wondering, does the test client return a specific subclass of HTTP response, or does it return an actual HTTP response? So let's check on this. Let's assert on the type and have that fail, although it's not even going to get that far yet because we've got all this code in the way that is definitely not working. Boo. Okay. Let's look at, it's going to come in to create a checkout session, which is going to call Stripe session. Oh, yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Phooey. All right, hold on. Let me think how I want to handle this. Because we don't actually want to create a Stripe session. That would be bad. We don't want it to get here and try and call a Stripe session. We're using test keys and stuff, so I mean, it would be okay, but the hope is that the reason that you have a gateway is the idea is you should be able to mock it out. So it's not actually making calls to the real system. It's probably why, earlier as well, we shouldn't have to depend on a real price object necessarily. Although my opinion with Django and databases is that it's okay to use your database, which is why I have factories. But I don't want the session to create a real thing. What I want to do is have a fake gateway here, and then use what? Yeah, fake gateway that would mock this out and return the session ID, just any session ID that we want. So we could, I'm not saying you should, but we could do some mocking on the payments gateway. And that would be one way to do this, so that that there's nothing here, or that we have a fake object, a mock object for wherever the payment gateway is called. And that would be one way to solve this, and it's an okay way to solve this. It's not a great way. The other way to do this could be to have we can make the gateway something that is we could do dependency injection and have this as an optional parameter. The challenge with that is that it's an extra keyword argument, and views are a little funny. Views sort of expect keyword arguments to match routes, but if it's a keyword argument with an actual default value, it might be okay. Like maybe the view is going to be just fine. So let's try that. I don't know that I've done this before, but with views, because I usually think of views as everything coming into the view is typically the stuff that I have defined in the URL route. So if you have a ID or something like that you need to pass into a URL route, you'd have that like ID, something along those lines. But here we want a keyword argument, and the keyword argument I'm thinking of is an optional gateway. So where we say gateway is none. And if we do that, we can do payments gateway or none is the type. And then, so if we're adding some type annotations to try and help us here. And then this way, now we have a method of saying, well, okay, this isn't going to work. Here's why. Because we're using the client here. So we're not calling this view function directly. Instead we're saying, all right, Django, you do your thing, go to the URL route and call the appropriate function here. So I think that really gives us the only tool at our disposal by doing this client call is to actually, well, I mean, not the only tool. One of the tools at our disposal is mocking. The other way to do this would be to have some kind of tool that does inversion of control or dependency injection through another mechanism, which is possible. There's actually one I came across the other day from Henrik Schlalek. I don't know how to say his last name, Schlalek. He's a popular guy in the Python space. He's got a new project. Oh, what's it called? It was something funky. Services? No. All right, let's go to his website and get it directly from the guy himself. Henrik Schlalek. Now, can I find Schlalek? Sorry, Henrik. Trying. And he announced a project fairly recently about, well, where'd it go? I thought it was recently. Well, that's going to be annoying because I can't find his post. I promised there was somewhere. It's not talks. Not this. Where'd you put it, man? Let's check out his GitHub. I'm sure it's on there. Start with an S. There it is. Isn't that what I searched for? SVCS? Oh, I did S. Okay. SVCS. So this is his new project. He's this guy has made some projects that you have, if you've been in Python for long enough, you've stumbled across them. He is actually the original author of adders, which was what became data classes in Python, or what inspired data classes in Python. So he's done some really influential work in the community, and he's got some good ideas here. But you can see that he has this model of using his system is you have some methods to kind of look up your dependencies, which might be relevant for a payment gateway where so it's kind of the idea would be it's one more degree of indirection, right? You get this tool where it does a lookup of a service at runtime or at test time. And at runtime, you can have it configured to look up the real gateway. At test time, you can have it configured to look up a synthetic or a fake gateway. And that's how you could manage this without mocks. Because here, it would, instead of like because this is directly creating an instance of the gateway, and you could instead say svsc dot from or whatever. I don't know the API yet. I've not played with it to actually get the thing you need. This is cool, or it looks cool. I have not played with it though, and I'm not sure that I'm wanting to fold this into my actual project. But just wanted to kind of show this off. I think what I will do, since I want to keep this app pretty tight, and I don't have a lot of cases where I need to actually mock out this gateway. There's not going to be a lot of use cases here where I'm going to call things that might actually call out to Stripe. This is actually one of the few views. So I think what I'm going to do is mock. In this case, I'm going to mock out the payments gateway import here. We'll create a fake gateway through a mock injection, even though Hinnick would frown on me for doing so. And then we'll get our stuff tested that way. So you can do this better than I'm choosing to do it, but you've been educated, and go learn more about it. All right, let's do it. So we've got what do we actually want to test? We're not testing that this is authenticated, though we may want to. What do I care about? We don't care about the type of response. That was what we were trying to get to. Yeah. Went down a pretty deep rabbit hole in order to try and get to the type of the response. Ultimately, we want to test that we're getting a session ID that's provided by the checkout session. That's what we want to assert, because that's the thing that needs to go back to the browser, because this is done as in the AJAX call. So if we're looking at our diagram here, we're talking about, where is it? It's this piece right here, which does, the browser requests a checkout session. The server creates a session using a secret key and calls Stripe. Stripe is going to return that session, and we're going to return the ID back, which will then allow the user to go to the checkout page. Okay, so that's what we're trying to synthesize here. So now what? Now we need to mock out the gateway, set that up so that it will call this, that it will behave like a gateway, which we can do. And when we call the create checkout session function, then it will handle that properly. So to start that, we'll say from unit test import mock. You don't have, this is now built into Python, which is pretty cool. And we want to be mocking a class here. It's been a while since I've used mock. Maybe we can go look at, did I do something similar with the homeschool app with the payment gateway here? Because we have a gateway over here as well, Stripe gateway. And I'm wondering if I've mocked it anywhere. Maybe I just never tested that view in that way. That's crazy. How would I create checkout session? I think I give it the same name over here. Oh, this is the check for the actual gateway. I would expect this, I guess, to be in the test views area. Here it is. Oh, okay. The difference here is that because of the way I implemented this in homeschool, this was a module level attribute. So it's mocking out the whole module. We're gonna have to do this differently. But we are gonna observe while we're here. We've got this auto spec equal true feature. We're gonna use that. The auto spec feature is basically saying, hey, mock is smart enough to know what methods you have and what you're calling them with, if you want. It's an optional thing, and the reason it has to be optional, which is really unfortunate, it's like Python's so powerful, is that you can make classes that use some of the meta methods of Python, like overriding gettr and doing all this fancy stuff, that make it so that auto spec is not 100% reliable. So they can't turn it on everywhere. It would be nice if it would be a default, but it's just not doable. All right, so we're going to do mock patch object, I think is what we really need. And, oh gosh, it's been a long time. The reason we need object is we want to, no, is that true? Okay, sorry y'all. Mock patch object. So let's see if I have any of these. I don't. It has been a long time since I've done this style. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Let's just try and mock out the whole gateway interface instead and see if that does what we want. So we'll do journal. Well, what's the path? So that's going to be the accounts, views, payments gateway. We don't want to mock out at the actual path of this because we're not trying to mock out for all of the system. We want to, for this test purpose, we want to be mocking out just this import in this particular namespace. That's important. If we did instead journal.payments.gateway, then we'd be mocking out every instance of the payment gateway, which could have weird adverse effects on other parts of our testing. So we've got this mock. Where does it go? Which it's going to import as, well, here's the first argument. So we've already got I can't remember now if the client is going to be, if it's this order where the mock will be here, mock payments gateway class, or if it's the other order where the client's going to be first. So let's try this. Yeah, it looks like we're still calling the client properly, so I think that was the right order. So now we've effectively stubbed out payments gateway. And so when we create an instance here, it's going to be whatever our mock is. But we haven't even gotten past this point. So perhaps the next thing to do is actually set our request body to be a proper call. So this needs to really be a post. It's the first thing we need to do. And, oh, junk. How do we do a post body on the client? It's just data. See, the danger here is I'm now looking at Django Test Plus, so this might be different. So I'm not really sure. Let's assume that we have this data attribute for the moment, and if it turns out it's from Django Test Plus, we'll go back and fix it. So we know that we need something that's going to have a price ID in it. So we want our data to look like a dictionary that is going to have price ID, and that's going to be, for now, I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, because it shouldn't matter. Like, it's going to go into our fake gateway. We can assert that that's what we get out of it. But we're not actually testing the gateway right now. We're just testing that the view is calling the gateway and returning out back whatever it gives. That's what we really care about. And then we can, here, I think we should hopefully be able to say data is equal to data, unless this is not how this, the challenge, the reason I'm stumbling over this is because the Test Plus library that I used does some stuff to the client, I think. And so I'm not positive this is the API. Yep. Okay. So this is doing a post and hold on. Let me make sure that it's failing where I think it's failing. Yeah. It's failing when it tries to access the request body. So let's see if we can figure out what that request body is. I think it's probably nothing, because I think we're not calling it right in our test yet. So if we do, let's just try this. Request body right here. And yeah, okay. It's not nothing. It's okay. It's what I should have expected. This data, here's the bytes. So you can see this does not look like JSON, right? And it's because the client is trying to use the content type of form data. So there's one of the headers that gets passed around when doing HTTP post calls is what is your content type? We haven't set that, so what it's attempting to do is it's trying to treat the form as actual form data, and it's trying to convert that. But we wanted to leave that alone. We wanted to send this actual data just kind of raw as is. So we don't want to use pickle. That's pickles for when two Python processes are talking to each other, but you have to think that this is like a browser talking to a web server. So pickle would not be the format, especially actually pickle would have quite a few security problems with it. So you need to be careful if you're actually thinking about pickle. I think, okay, so the question that we have now is what do we have to do to change the client so that it uses the right type? And I think it might be a content type thing. Content. And if I might be getting this wrong. All right, I'm so off base. Let's go check out the docs and make sure that we get it right. So there are testing tools. There, we should be able to search for something like client. Yep, testing tools. And let's see if JSON pops up in here anywhere. So we've got a client. It's got a JSON encoder. Which we can do with post. How do we use that though? How do we need to trigger it. See, okay, here it is. Oh, I wasn't far off. It's content type. See, what it's doing by default is it's trying to use the multi-part content type. And we need to tell it to use the JSON content type, which you can do with this. So I think if we do, we've got data, and we want to say content type equal, and then we want to do the content type for JSON, which is application JSON. And with any luck, that is what the client will detect that and then serializes differently. So it won't blow up here. Should blow up maybe down here, maybe not. We'll see how far it gets. Okay, good. So we got farther, which tells me, and now we can actually see the bodies printed out. So it prints out the bytes that you would expect as JSON. And we're getting down into, we got all the way to the JSON response, which is good. So it means that the gateway got called, and by default in Python, mocks will let you call them with whatever that you want. It's just like, okay, I'm going to pretend to be that. That's fine. So we're going to have to change that in order to get the behavior that we want, because that's what a mock cannot do, is it cannot serialize. So it can't convert itself into a string format because it doesn't know what you mean. So when it's trying to get into JSON, the JSON response is saying, I've got a key that's a session ID that's a string, and I'm supposed to have a session ID, which you and I should know is supposed to be a string. But when it actually gets down to it, it's like, wait a minute, this thing was not a string. This thing was some other mock type, and we don't know what to do with it. So that's why it's giving us this error here about it not being serializable. So what we need to do is now some work with our mock client, our class here. So we'll say we need to create a gateway instance, and so we'll just call it gateway. Why not? And we'll say mock dot magic mock, I guess. I never keep track of which one I really want. Let's do a magic mock, and our mock payments gateway class, when it's called, we want to set its return value. So I think the way that we want to do that is like fooey. If it's treated like a callable, is that with call? Am I getting that right? And then we want to set the return value to that is equal to the gateway. I might be off on this. It's been a while since I've done something that's a class. Let's see if we have any examples of return value in homeschool, if I'm on track or not. I've got an example where create. Problem is, I don't know if these examples have. Yeah, none of them are using it like a class call. All right, we're going on my memory, which may be a terrible decision. But really what we want, so we also need to set our gateway. So we want to set the behavior when the create checkout session method is called. So you do that by calling this like a property and then saying the return value on that. And this is where we want to have what effectively is our session ID. So we'll say fake session ID like this. If I did this right, and the off chance I did, then we'd get this test would pass. I don't think I did it right. Yeah, method object has no value, no attribute return value. Okay, I didn't do that right. So, all right. What can we do? Python unit test mock. So it shows you how to do. Well, let's see if we can find some examples of return value. So showing you how to do it if you have a method on here. And here's what it, here's an example of it's using stir. But I want to do it if it's calling it like a class. That's what I can't remember how to do. We do it on init? Surely not. Well, you know, I'm gonna keep going just a little bit. There's a lot of matches here, though. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Booey. Yeah, sorry y'all. It's been a long time. Let's do this. I think we might be able to use some ChatGPT to help us out. ChatGPT is actually not so bad at programming sometimes, and this is a well-known thing here. So I'm gonna log in here. So let me put it on secrets mode because it's my 1Password might auto-populate some fields, which I don't want to show off. And yep, it did. So I'm logging into session here, and I got a bunch of, I guess you can see my previous ChatGPT conversations, but they're all about programming. So nothing to hide there. Not that I would. And let's say, okay, so in Python unit test mock, how do you mock the return value of a class instance call? Maybe that's the question that, maybe it'll understand that question. Oh, just as if it was called. I was way overthinking it. Okay. That makes sense to me. Now that I'm seeing the answer, it's like, duh, that should be obvious, because this is like, you do the dot return value for as if this thing was called, which is what will happen over here. And then we want to treat the class as if the thing was called. So the class is going to get called, and its return value is going to be this magic mock that we set. All right, let's try running our test again, see what happens. And it passes. Passes because it got all the way through here, and then all we're doing is checking the response. Now here's where I wanted to check. This is not going to be true, but I want to see what the type of the response is. Is it just an HTTP response, or is it something else? It's a JSON response. JSON response should have a JSON attribute, I think. So we'll go back to, I lost it. Where did it go? I have the Django docs up somewhere. There they are. JSON response. JSON response. And hopefully there's a method on here that will give us back the JSON. Man, there is not. All right. I mean, so there's the content. Let's try it again. In Django, how do we get the JSON data back into a dictionary from a JSON response? It might say use JSON loads or something, which, okay. Yeah. Is there no method that can help do this quickly? Or do we have to use the JSON module? Sometimes you gotta like, this is the answer I predicted, and this is what I was saying I would like to avoid if we can, because you see what it's doing here. It's like, it's going through this whole process of making you decode the response and pulling out the data and parsing it. Like that's annoying. Okay, well, that now the question is it lying? Because this is what I would think, but the public documentation for Django on that very specific class, did I miss it? No. So either ChatGPT is hallucinating, which is entirely possible, or it's not a publicly documented method. Not hallucinating, not publicly documented. That's kind of strange. Yeah. All right. So we could say, what do we want to say? We want to say that this is going to be a dictionary. So we want to do session ID is equal to fake session ID. Hey, cool. So we have tested the happy path through this. We did not test that the price actually got to the gateway. So we can do, got to do a little bit more work here to make this work. So we want to say, we want to get the user. So we need to use our user factory here. And we'll change this to be a user. Because there's one of the features of mock objects is you can call them, you can call a method on them called assert called with. I believe it's what it's called. Assert called with, yep. Which you can give the exact parameters that you expect it to be called with. So we can say, we get these two things. We got the status code. So by the time you got a status code, you know that it's been successful. Actually, that's like later. So let's first do it here. Let's do the gateway dot create. So this is the thing that we expect to be called the session, and we want it to assert that that was called with. And then we give it the arguments that we expect it to be called with, in which case it's going to be 1234. That's the price ID, and the user that we just assigned to a local value. So that's kind of testing that we've checked the input that we've gone to this, which does the connection here of we're actually testing that we pulled out the price ID and then passed it in here. All right, there's two things that I've listed as to-dos here. This view should only work with authenticated requests because we have to do this on behalf of a real user. And we need to ensure that this only works with post requests. This thing makes no sense with a GET request. So we have two decorators that we can add, which will help guarantee that. And I'm drawing a blank on what one of the decorators is. It has post in the name. Ensure post, is that it? No, that can't be it. Oh, boo. Let's see. Require post? What is the Django view decorator to require post requests only? I think it's require post. Require post. So we need that. We can test that. We could test that. Yeah, we can test that. So let's write our test. And we're actually done with the gateway for a moment. Set that aside. And an authenticated user gets a valid response. That's maybe not the best method name, but it's fine. Def. So we want to do a test on the unauthenticated. That's our second test that we'll do in a minute, but we'll go ahead and write it. And test requires post. So for the requires post, it's not going to be a true test. Like the true test here is I would check every single HTTP method. Not going to do that. Instead, I want to test that one not allowed method is sufficient. And the status code that, so if a particular URL route on the web does not respond to a certain HTTP method, then the HTTP status code that it returns should be a 405, saying like it's a 405 method not allowed. And it's just a quick way of saying like, nope, I can't support your request. Don't call me that way. So this is what we're going to do. Only allow post requests. So here what we're going to do is we're going to call it with a valid user because that might be necessary. And I guess we need to do user factory. And we need to give it pass in the client instance. So we've got our force login. And then the other thing we want to do is try and call this, but we're going to change this to a get. And then we're not going to call it with the right data type. None of that should matter. Just the fact that we're calling it this way should be sufficient to get the error code that we expect. Then we can say assert response status code 403. Now, this will, 405 is what I said, right? This will blow up because we haven't passed in the data. So we're going to kind of rewind back to, nope, this is not going to work. That's okay. What we really want, yeah. So I expect this to be like, it blew up because we gave a bad JSON. That's because our test is not doing that, or our code's not fixed right now. So the test is not satisfied. Could it be cleaner? We could do like better error checking here about is the request body always look like JSON? I'm not going to do that, and it's not worth my time. So we want to bring in the decorator that matters, and that would be Django view decorators HTTP. So from Django views decorators HTTP import require post. And then we want to add the require post right here. And we should be able to get rid of that to do. Come over here and run this test. And now it passes. So I at least remembered my HTTP status code. All right. Then we want to be able to say only allow authenticated users. It's really what this test is about. So we want to be able to say, it's really like, yeah, it's all of this stuff without the forced login. The forced login is the quick and easy way to do to log in a user, but it bypasses the actual authentication subsystem and just like directly sets it on the request, which is fine for our testing purposes in most cases. So we're going to get this, and we're not actually using the response yet, so we need to use that. So the assert, now I don't remember which, it's going to be 401? 401 or 403. I don't know which status code it's going to be. So, but I know that it should be a rejection. So we're going to say assert response status code, and I'm going to give it deliberately something that I know is not going to be right. Well, actually, hold on. Here's the way to synthetically, so we know that this test down here works. So the only thing that we could do differently to get the status code is by commenting out the forced login. All right, and it's still going to work right now, but there's no user found because it's an anonymous user. So the test failed in a way that we expected. And actually, let's put this first, just for the moment. But we need to add on, good grief, login required. Where is login required? Oh man, I got rid of that. I used Django denied, which is a project I built on my other site. So I don't actually use login required anymore. Where is the login required decorator? I think it's in the auth, the contrib auth thing. Yeah, okay. So for our other decorator, we want to go from Django contrib .auth .decorators, import login. Why is it giving me, like, the stuff coming out of the LSP is just garbage right now. Auth decorators, yeah. What? Login required? Do I have a comma somewhere? I'm not seeing it. I mean, you're certainly right, John. Oh, there it is. Thank you, sir. Like, what is going on? It was just awful. Okay, so the question becomes the order of the decorators, because this, I've got now, I'm going to have two decorators stacked on top of each other. And it might be something that, in order to see that this method is not supported, we might have to give it a valid user, which we've done. Okay, so that's the right way. So let's do, I think we want login required to be the outermost one. And now this test down here, it's not going to give me a 200. It's going to give me 302. It's not giving me a rejection, flat out rejection. Instead, it's saying, you know what, go over here to the login page, and then you can come back to this, which is why it's got the next URL in there. So 302 is the thing that we actually want, and I was wrong. I think what I did with Django denied is it just makes it a 401 by default if you're going to a page that you shouldn't be going to. Maybe not. I don't remember. 302. Okay. So now we have I think our entire view, which is we've got it nice and short. Oh, I guess we can get rid of, so this is not true. We're not going in through that view. So we don't need that there because we've chosen to mock it instead. And it's a fairly tight mocking, so that's okay. We've got all of our tests, they all pass. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. So one of the things tested down. Let's go run our suite and figure out where are we missing coverage. We're missing probably coverage in a bunch of places. Oh no, nice. Not as bad as I thought. So we're missing on, well, let's go look. We're gonna go to our gateway and it's saying we're missing on line 21. What is line 21? Nothing's calling the secret key. Okay. That's because nothing in our, so as soon as we actually call create checkout session, we're going to call the secret key. That'll be fine and it'll resolve that. So we want to call this with, yeah, let's set up our gateway test. Do we have a file already? Test gateway? Yep. Done with that. So our gateway, and we renamed this thing. So it's not, we're not testing the price ID anymore. We're testing the price attribute. And we want, so with this test here, I mean, the truth is like, well, I don't, how much do I care about this stuff? How much, what really matters? Is it this whole structure? Yeah, there's a bunch of things that we have not corrected yet. Oh, junk. Okay. Clear out some of these tabs that we're not using. I think we're done with, well, we might still need mock. I'll leave it up. So we're still here. Good grief. We got all the ways to go. So let's write this first test, not this second test. And still need the webhook. Wow. All right, we got a bunch of things here. And I don't want to overthink this. So the customer email is required by Stripe. That's going to be the user email field. That's yes. These things we can't really test yet. So I'm trying to think of like what do I want to test? We're going to mock the Stripe API completely. That's one thing that's definitely going to happen. So here we've got Stripe imported. That'll be part of our test. So let's do test create checkout session. And we'll say the gateway gets a valid session ID. That's the thing we care about. We can create a gateway instance. We can call, we're going to have session ID. And this will be something that we mock out. We're going to get a mock value from when we mock out Stripe in a moment. But we want to call gateway create checkout session. And we need to pass in a price ID. So we'll say fake price ID. And the other thing is a user object. So we'll do the, oh man, that was really weird indentation. User, we'll call the user factory. Which, okay, that's driving me nutty, where it's like my stuff is bringing in the right import, but it's not putting in the right section. All right, well, okay, when I save it, at least it fixes it. Better than nothing. And then we need to put the user there, And I want to, well, I'm not ready to do an assert yet. So let's put the user there and call that done. What's it complaining about? Oh, you're just wrong, Pyrite. User factory produces user instances, but it doesn't know that, so it doesn't understand what's going on. I remember there were ways that I tried to clean that up, and it just ended up not being worth it. Which is like, it's a shame. Like it's a shame that I have to live with like potentially values that shouldn't be there. Like, why is this complaining? It doesn't know what a user is, even though a user is a model. It just, I don't know. Type checking just really doesn't play well with Django sometimes. So you have to deal with these errors that are around. And then when I've tried the game of whack-a-mole where you try and get rid of them all, and I just haven't been very successful when I tried that. So it's not worth for me going around and fixing them. We just got to deal with, like, I just have to internalize which ones are good and which ones are bad. Okay, so we need to have mock here as well. Oh, really? Rough LSP. Oh, that sounds awesome. Although I don't know, I mean, it's still going to be so even if they have the LSP, which will be cool, then it'll have the same kind of problem as with the type annotations, right? Because it's the problem is not rough. The problem is that that Django is not really well suited for type annotations. From unit test, import mock. And down here, we want to say mock patch. And the thing we're trying to patch out is the actual import of Stripe in the gateway module. So that would be journal.payments gateway.stripe. And then we're going to have a mock Stripe here. All right. So now, what do we have down here? We've got deeply in here, we've got the thing we need to mock out, or the thing that we need to get out of this. We're going to have a mock session. I go back and forth on whether I like calling these mocks or like calling these just by their name. I'll call it mock session. I don't think I did that in the other test. I think I just called it whatever it was. So that's going to be a magic mock. And it needs to act like a thing. I don't remember if magic mocks play nicely with dictionary access. What? Does anybody know what dunder method is it when you're doing a dictionary access? All right, let me actually know it. ChatGPT. I think you're like 3 for 3 tonight, ChatGPT. So let's go. Using Python unit test mock. How do you mock a dictionary-like object and set the return value of a particular key access? Gotta ask detailed questions. Lambda. Wow. That is I have never seen that done before. Can you do that? Can you create a dictionary and then immediately call it like that? Does that work? That's pretty cool if it does. So Python A B. Can we just call get right away? on A. Would you look at that? That is slick. I learned something new today about Python. Huh. All right, so the key thing here was really using getItem. So I think we could do perhaps getItem with its return value and then skip all the key stuff. Like I don't really want to, I just care about, I don't really care that it's going to call in the ID. I know I can do that right. So mock, let's see if I have any, maybe there has to be that way. No, okay, no underscore. Okay, I didn't call that over here apparently. Bunch of things I did differently on this one. It's interesting. But I know I have that gateway test. What's going on? Let's do test gateway. Wargs. Oh, okay. That's smart, Matt. Actually just set a dictionary. It's the return value. Don't use a mock. Because I'm not doing anything else with it. Duh. Alright, that was a better call. So we're gonna do mock stripe dot checkout dot session create return value going to be just a dictionary of ID with fake session ID. And then we want to assert that session ID is equal to fake session ID. All right, I have a feeling it's going to blow up right here because we won't have a site. Although maybe Django test or PyTest Django might set a default site for us. Or did we set one in the conf test? Nope. Well, let's see. Let's find out. All right, it got farther. It called secret key. That's cool. Ah, thanks, John. That's the publishable key. But this is not going to call a publishable key. It's going to call a secret key. So now that should get a real, because that was blowing up. Where was that blowing up? Right here. So it got through all this stuff. And then it passed all that into the call. And then it returned the ID. So this is probably going to pass. Nice. All right, so we know now that we're getting back the session ID from that create call. And I know that this is all fake, right? Like we're using a bunch of mock. But at the end of our last streaming session, we actually did test this. We saw it get a real session ID and actually go to Stripe. So I think what I'm really doing here is, yes, it's a mock, but I know that this code at this state and time works. And what we need to keep, we need to have it keep working in the future. That's the key point. Because if I come in here and I like delete something by accident and I mess it up and then this test fails, it's going to be the safety net that would have prevented me from having users actually be able to follow through on the checkout process. So that's good. That's why we want this. The other bits here is like we need to add more information that what am I trying to say? We need to add more information that Stripe needs to make this more valuable. And we've got this to do. I don't know that I want to mess with this to do right now. Maybe we record that. If I haven't already recorded that, we should do that investigation. Let's take a look, see if I have one. Did I set this anywhere? Oh, that's an important one. Got to do that soon. Okay, no, I didn't. Oh, geez, there's 2 pages. Yikes. We gotta nail some of these things down. Getting too crazy. It's one task. But I'm gonna grow it for now. So let's say accept other payment types. What other options are available that users could use from Stripe? Because I don't care. Like I think I mentioned this last time. Like if somebody has Apple Pay or something like that, like you don't have to pay me with a card. As long as Stripe can collect money from you, and as you being the person who is a customer of the site, then I'm happy. Like you're happy that you're getting the service, and I'm happy that I'm getting money from you. So that's the mutual exchange of goods that we care about. So we've got that. That is that's now number 73. Issue 73. Or I don't actually like leaving just to-dos around here. Well, this will give me the pointer of where to come back to search for. So we know we need it to be a mode, a mode of subscription. We know that we've already got the right price and the quantity. That's fine. And this is important. We've got the Stripe, the user ID captured as this client reference ID. That'll come back to us when we get to the webhook. So that is an important thing to assert on because it has an implication for us on the other side. So we need to get out the keyword args from the create call. So if we do, let's do this first of quargs dot Stripe. What was I saw it over here? Call args quargs. Yeah, looks like I had the same idea in mind. Actually, this is like all the same. This is all the code that we want, right? They've actually changed. That subscription data will come in later. That's for the trial stuff that we're going to do. But we want this stuff right here. Let's just steal it rather than trying to recreate all this. Okay. So this is going to be the user email because that's what we've got this time. And we want, instead of the account, we want the user ID. But otherwise, this is what we want. And those tests pass because we already had them set here. We will come back and we've got a specific checkbox item for the start URL and the other one. Where'd it go? What's that number? 7. Down here, after we do the webhook, we've got to set those URLs. So we don't have to do this part that's commented out yet. So essentially, we've tested the customer email. We're skipping these 2 things. We've got an issue written for the payment type. The mode is definitely a subscription, and the line item is correct. We've already seen that. I don't feel a need to assert on this. I'm not going to change it. If I did, I would write a test. I'd verify before I changed it. And then we've got the client reference ID, which is the matches our user ID, which we're going to use on our webhook. So I feel like that that is enough assertions here for our purposes. And we wanted to assert the outcome to that is the fake session ID is what gets returned. So we've got our passing tests here, and I think now we probably have full coverage and we're back to a good healthy state with our test suite. All right, awesome. That was an hour and a half work of doing what, 2 or 3 tests. Plus, I mean, we're kind of, we had gotten the basics of the checkout working, but we didn't have all of the finer points of refining, like it has to be this type of HTTP request and the user has to be logged in. All of these extra quality or safety checks that will make sure that we don't get burned in production needed to be there. So it took some time, but I think it was the time well spent. So let's add this, and I'm going to go ahead and commit it and say add tests for Stripe gateway, or it's really the payments gateway, but whatever. For, yeah, it matters. Payments gateway for number 7. And we'll commit that and push it up. Oh, booey. GP set upstream origin Stripe. Okay. Now we should just be able to get push in the future. So here's our PR now running. All the pre-commit stuff already ran. That's good. And then it's got the test run that will check everything else out. Is it really only 104 lines? No, okay, 174. Bigger now. Okay, tests done. Let's talk about the checkout session. And let's look at our diagram. I think I put this in here. All right, so we're in here. The user checks out. This is the flow that we care about. I don't know. It's probably not as visible as it should be. Let's try and blow it up some. But here's our diagram. So you get to the checkout page as the user. You're happy with the service. You're ready to go, and you fill out your payment info. You submit your payment. And in the process of when this page was loaded, and this is something I don't quite represent accurately in the sequence diagram, but it's close enough. When we said, give us a checkout page, we also, that's when we have that success and cancel URL. So those are going to be embedded on this page right here. And so you're going to get a payment here. And actually wasn't real clear on the behavior for the success stuff. With the cancel stuff, it's really clear because it shows up right as a button on the screen, and you can hover over it and you can see that Stripe just has it's a link right back to your site. That's really clear. What's less clear is when you hit the payments button and you actually say, I'm ready to pay for this, how it gets to the success page. I don't know if it's like the response comes back to the page that you have and then Stripe triggers a redirect, or Stripe on their side follows your payment and then does the redirect on their end, and well, that can't work. So it must be like a redirect coming back, or telling the client side to do a redirect back to the success page. And that loads the success page. You get the request, and the server here, which is this middle line, will finally load the success page. We haven't done this part. We're kind of skipping the actual success page for a moment because we're not ready to handle that. What we want to do is handle this piece right here, which is sending the webhook with the complete session. And that's what's going to transition our users from the trialing state into the active state. So I see no reason to redo all of this from first principles. This is something that I fully can steal from the homeschool apps. Let's do that. Let's go to the homeschool app and go to the accounts models page, which I think is where this is. I don't have the virtual environment loaded up, so all the Django imports are complaining like crazy, but that's okay. But what we want here is this section down at the bottom. And I'm going to steal this whole thing, and we're going to put this, where are we going to put this? We need a place where, well, this is for our users. And that's, we don't have a custom user anymore. We just need a consistent place to put this. What? Did I not commit something? Oh, it's the issue thing. Okay. Accounts, models. So we have our account model. We've got what is that? Activator model. What the hell? Excuse me. Where am I? Did I do this? My brain, man. Activator model. Yeah, I did. What was that thing? This is coming back to me now. Sorry. Oh, it had statuses. This was like, I think this was about like if we wanted to soft delete users in the future. Right. Okay, sorry. I was mega confused there for a second. It looked like it for a moment. It looked like my homeschool code, and I was like, that. Yeah, I was just really out of sorts. Okay, so we need webhooks, and this webhooks comes from DJ Stripe. So this is probably the real reason that I care about DJ Stripe. Getting the models, getting all of that stuff is convenient, but I don't want to do the webhook stuff. The webhooks are annoying, especially having them secure. And we want to, I don't think I copied that right. Hold on. So what DJ Stripe does for us is the proper webhook handling that allows for a secure access, or as secure as webhooks can be, I guess. And then if you actually want to handle events, it really has transformed you're dealing with raw HTTP stuff, and it said, no, we'll do all that. You just write your function and decorate your function with the handler and the event that you want to have handled, and we will call that anytime that event appears. So we want to put over after Django here, we want to put in DJ Stripe like that. So now we've got webhooks down here. And this webhook implementation is not correct because it's focused, well, is that true? We still have an account model. Maybe it's still true. The thing that's not correct is it's not an account ID. That's what's not correct. So remember a while ago, just, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, we said that the client reference ID was going to be the user ID. So that's going to be the difference here. And we want to say the payments gateway sets the user ID in the client reference ID field. And so Stripe holds on to that on our behalf. We are the client in that regard. And when they call back, they say, like, here you go. Here's your ID that you gave us, and do with it what you want. So we need to do exactly that. We want to do user ID or user ID. And this is not correct, but I'm going to put it there for a second. And this is also not correct. This account, I don't think we called it account status. We just called it status. Yeah. To keep it shorter this time. So we essentially want to take the event data. We know, I am confident that Stripe has not changed the shape of this substantially, although we should verify. we're going to do an integration test. That's an end-to-end test of this whole thing. I just said two different kinds of tests. We're doing an end-to-end test, not an integration test. And it will set the account to the active state. That's still correct. And this event occurs after the user provides their checkout payment information. That's also correct. So this is all good so far. The one thing that is not good is this filter right here. It's not, we don't filter on the ID. So the account is going to hold a user as a one-to-one field. And so instead of a user ID, we actually want or instead of just ID, we want the user ID. So this is a cool, one of the more interesting aspects of Django models is that when you have a foreign key, what actually is available to you anytime you need it, if you don't want to load the user or try and get let me speak a little clearly. We could take this user ID and then look up the user and then do a filter that looks like user and user. So we could do this. It would be user equal user.objects.get on ID equal user ID. This would be a totally valid way to do this. Okay. But this way is longer. And it brought in this into memory all the user attributes when we don't need them. This is an unneeded fetch. Instead, we can know that, okay, account has a primary key on our foreign key on the user, and it stores that as like a semi-hidden field as user ID, which is literally just the integer ID. So if we want to cut out this query entirely, we change this and only just depend on the fact that we're dealing with IDs, and then we can take out the database call to user. So that is our entire handler. And again, I don't see any reason to recreate the wheel here. So let's look. This is the test models. Let's see if there's an appropriate accounts test models that has the. Did I even test it? Surely I did test it somewhere. Did I call it directly as a question? I put it in Stripe web. I had a whole separate file for this. What's in that file? An account factory. Oh, an event factory. Wow. Okay. Why did I make an event factory? Ugh. Infinite Youth, this is live. You mean are you asking is my site live? Yes, the site is live, but it's the user interface is nothing. There's like nothing there right now. So it's journeynbox.com. I am using this on a regular basis. What it does is it sends email. It's a journaling service that sends email, and you write in your email client, and it records your journal response there and keeps that database. And the unique thing is that every prompt you get, every day you get the idea to you get the prompt. So that's the email that shows up in your inbox, and it takes one of your previous entries and repeats it back to you just randomly, so that you can be reminded of things that you've written about in the past and things that you've experienced. I've been using this kind of journal. I have a different service that I use, but I've switched over to Journey Inbox. I've been doing this for 8 years, 9 years. It's really cool. Like when you have literally thousands of entries, you'd be like, oh, right, I remember that day. It was fun. So that's what the service is that we're building. But I'm trying to get it to the point where people can sign up, because right now there's not enough there to kind of gate or ensure the minimum amount of data that I need to be successful with those accounts is there. So we're taking the slightly slower route of getting it all wired up, and then it'll be available and so on. All right, so this test feels okay. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we can steal the whole thing. And the thing is, we would put this. All right. Account. Let's just put it in the test models. It was only one test. I don't really feel like I need to get this its own file. That seems totally overkill. So this is going to be journal. So that's true. So probably be journal as well once we have that. I don't know that I want the account factory. We want, I don't remember. Because the user factor creates an account, which is fine. Oh, but I need an account in a specific state. Yes. Okay. And it's not a test case, or we don't derive from a test case class here. So let's put those at the top. We've already got an account factory. We need to go check on that event factory in a minute, see what that is. I have a feeling the event factory might exist to like set up all the other stuff that goes into the hook, that we pass in something valid here that's representative of what DJ Stripe is actually going to pass in. So I'm okay with that. So let's call event factory and get rid of that. And we want to do handle checkout session completed and get rid of that line. Okay, now over here we have an account factory. We want an account that is in the status state or the status state, and we want to get it in the active state. That's really the test. We want to change it. We want to confirm that it changed state. Oh, that's cool. You're building a Flask site to do e-commerce. That's neat. I wish you luck. So we know that we need our account to be not the account ID, because that's different in Journal app. It's the user ID. That's one difference that we require. And we need this event factory. So let's go see what that event factory was. Okay, that's not much. Just has an ID apparently. And it pulls from DJ Stripe models. Okay. Looks okay to me. Whoa. That's a weird import syntax. I guess that's the rough way of doing it. Huh. I don't know that I like that. But wow. Okay, well, the nice part about picking a automatic style thing is that even if you don't like it, it's handled for you. Yeah, I'm not crazy about that. That looks kind of strange to me, but not going to complain. All right. And the test passed. Awesome. So that means our new webhook is there. Got the webhook. We added it. We wired it incorrectly. It's pulling out what it thinks is the user ID. doing a filter on that. It's getting the real user ID, so that's all good. New factory. The actual test. And that thing that we forgot to commit from before. All right, let's commit that. Whoops. Import block is unsorted or unformatted. Well, guys, yeah, you did that. Didn't you? Oh no. I've got fighting tools. What did that? That's not good. Because that's going to complain every time I change that. All right, I don't feel like figuring that out right now. I'm probably, it's probably isort. It's probably under the covers. It's been isort that's doing this the whole time. And this is a case where it's diverged from rough. I don't know. I don't feel like figuring that out. Okay. We're just going to do that. Yeah, John, you're right. Like, it's like I can do it. It's clearly like it fixed it automatically. Just it's the game of which of my tools is actually doing the handling of formatting in my NeoVim editor. I always have a hard time tracing that down. All right, let's spend 1 minute on it because I really don't want to spend the brain power thinking about it too hard. So I've got a save configuration in here somewhere. Yeah, we can bring up the PyProject TOML as a side to side. So I don't have an isort section anymore in my PyProject TOML. I'm just saying use isort style with rough. And then down here, so what happens is there a rough isort? I don't have rough isort. Do I need a rough isort? So the problem is I'm not sure that isort's that rough is what's doing it. So here we go. We have format on write. So what happens in my NeoVim config is that I'm passing this off to, I'm telling buff the LSP to run format. The formatter, and I'm using like some older tools that I haven't, so this is a problem with the NeoVim is almost as bad as the JavaScript ecosystem with how fast they update stuff. It's not a big dig at NeoVim, it's just they're not quite as slow moving as I would like them to be, but that's the way it is. So I have a plugin in here that is a little, like, I think is no longer considered the right thing to do anymore. And that plugin is, which one is it? No, what is, come on. I thought it was null ls. There it is. I think this one's like not maintained anymore, or if it's changed, it's like changed ownership. Okay, so there are things that a language server protocol, there are things that the Pywrite LSP does not do that an LSP is supposed to do. One of those things can be the format command. And so if you need your LSP to respond to format, but your LSP doesn't do format, what does that leave you with? So null ls tries to fill in that gap to say like, hey, if you have things that your LSP is supposed to do or won't do, we can fill it in with other tools. Okay, so if I look for null ls and I set the, you can see what it's got set down here. So here's how I know that I'm not using rough for my actual formatting right now. Because null ls runs, and when the formatting thing is called for Python, it runs it through black and it runs it through isort. So isort is what's actually running here, is my estimation. Now, maybe I could add an isort config. I probably have one over here. PyProject isort. Yeah. And I could set the profile to black, or to, yeah, black instead of the journal. Yeah, I didn't implement rough for Vim. You're right. So maybe let's do that. Let's try that. Let's we want to copy this and put it in the PyProject, and I'll put a big warning thing on it saying like, get rid of this. We should replace this. I should replace this with rough exclusively after updating my NeoVim config. All right, let's see if that. I think you're probably right, John. Well, let's test that theory. I'm gonna do a save, and it's saved. All right, there we go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I don't really like this config block, but you're right. It's the right call. So it's gonna making isort behave like black, and black rough basically behaves like black, at least in terms of import configuration. So that gets us what we want. Okay, let's add that and let's commit it. So this is, we've add the Stripe webhook for session completion, with the idea that Stripe calls it. And that's for number 7. And we can push that up. And we're good. Good there. Cool. Let's continue. I'm thinking for a moment. Trying to decide if I want to power through, like, and do the full end-to-end thing and finish off Stripe today. Let me do this. Let me go get some water, and I'll come back, and then I'll decide if I want to tackle just that second to last bullet or both of those last bullets. And we'll see, because it's already gone for like an hour, almost 2 hours. So I'll be back momentarily, and we'll see what we're gonna do. I had time to think for a moment. I think we'll do both of it, both things, and we'll see how we do. Well, I guess we can't. We'll try a full integration test on. Oh shoot, on my machine. No. What would be the real thing to do? I was about to say let's go ahead and do all of it, but because the success and cancel URLs, I was realizing that it's just one URL. The cancel URL, we're just going to point back to the index page. So that's actually fairly easy. And the success URL, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the design. I'm just going to say something like, thanks, your account's now active. And come back to it later. But then I'm trying to think about what we want for the full integration, end-to-end integration test. And there were some tools somewhere that we were looking at potentially on, here it was. But this is not the full end-to-end test, I think. So we can't, because what I want to be able to do is say, do a checkout session. And I want to see the checkout session. I would love to see like Stripe call the webhook. And that would be like real integration end to end. But maybe we can't do that right now, and maybe we just need to settle for this kind of setup. So verify them in separate pieces. Verify that we could put in like the fake payment information, and we get the full flow and get directed back to the success page. That would be like, so there's like 3 tests that we really care about. There's the cancel of, do you come back to where you were started from? There is the success path of somebody's punched in all of their card information and they hit the button and it comes to the success page. That's number 2. And then the third thing is actually that back end part of, did the webhook get fired and set your account to active? So I think we're going to have to, ideally 2 and 3 would be one thing, like the activation would cause the triggering of the webhook. But if we have this tool here that can fire an event, maybe we can get away with what we want. The trouble is, I don't know how we're going to set like the client reference ID. So in the absence of that, what do we get? All right, let's all right, one thing at a time. Let's do the success URL and then figure out the rest of it. See if we can knock this out quickly. All right, so come back to, get out of here. Don't need our, don't need my NeoVim config. We want to go to the checkout session, which is in the accounts views. No, that's in the gateway. The details are in the gateway that we care about. And all right, so cancel URL. Let's just do this. That way, that's the index. I mean, a better way to do this would be to do like a reverse on the index, but it's the index page. It's always going to be /. This is the one place on the site that I can confidently know that this will always resolve properly. Anything else could change in name, sure, but not this one. So I'm comfortable leaving a / for that. I don't even feel like I need to test it. That's not going to be helpful. Okay. The only other bit here, I guess, is the success URL. So where do we want to send people? We could do, let's check out our URLs page for a moment. I mean, top level thing? Why not? It's not a complicated site. It's not going to be a crazy UI. And in the future, if we ever needed to change it, sure, we could change it. So I think we've got our main links up here. This is kind of an accounty kind of thing. So let's just call it properly. Let's call it success. Just like this. And we will get it from the accounts views. We'll call it, the view will be called success and the name success. Okay. So nothing shocking on any of these things. So that'll be that. We want accounts views. I want to do, it's going to require a login because there's no point in, John, I'm curious on your success URL in settings comment there. I don't know why I would need it in settings, but maybe you can say more. Is there something that I put in my settings? Are you remembering something that I don't? No. Okay. So show the success page after account activation. And you're thinking, so I see what you're saying. So I'm thinking of, this is the success. So different kinds of success. Yeah, there's lots. This is like kind of poorly named in that regard. This is specifically success, not after authentication, but after you've signed up for the service. So that's the kind of success I'm thinking of. But yeah, you're right. I forgot that you can have other kind of stuff like that. So we want to return. We want to do a render, and render takes the request and it takes the template path. This will be the accounts success URL or success template, and there's not going to be any context that we need, so we'll pass in an empty dictionary. All right, and then we'll write this view really quickly. We'll just go there. Is this still right? What port are you on? 5001 again. What the heck? Now we're back to this? Really? Okay. ChatGPT, help me out. On Mac OS, how can I determine what process is still running on port 5000? LSOF. List open files. What's the I do? Does it say? Okay. LSOF I : 5000. Nothing. See, that's what's sneaky. It's like 5000. 5001. What the heck? What happens? Okay, maybe it knows about unicorn. Why? Yeah, I mean that's probably the easiest way, John. You're right, but I'm mystified. Like, what is going on that like Mac doesn't seem to know about the LSOF process, but Unicorn does? What? It doesn't make any sense. What would cause Unicorn to use port 5001 when nothing shows on the LSOFI:5000 output? Well, no, it's not explicitly configured to do that. We need to run it with sudo? Oh, didn't think so. But maybe so. Nope. All right, whatever. Not worth thinking about. Okay, we're on 5001. Are we still logged in though? That's what I don't know. Nope. Because now this is like a different account now. Readme Matt create horse. Okay. Now if we go back to the site from 5001, let's go to success. This should give us a template error because we don't have that template. That's what I was expecting. So templates, we want to have, guess it doesn't really matter. I want something that doesn't have a lot of content. Yeah, this is our unauthenticated page right now. Okay. Account is for Django all-auth. Accounts is where I probably want to put it for our app. And I think this is one time where I want to keep those separate because it's kind of semi-unfortunate name on the URL usage. No, that's not a file. I want a directory. Accounts. So we're going to have duplication there. And it's just to like de-risk that. Okay. So we want to say thanks. What should we say? Not thanks. Thanks for activating sounds stupid. Thanks for joining. Thanks for, or just thanks. Let's just leave it at thanks. And say, your account is now active. Thank you for, I'm saying signing up. That's repeating, like it's not really a sign up. Thanks for, the same sort of problem. It just does not need to be perfect. Okay. I think this is all we need to get that going. And then going back to the gateway, now we want to come over here and say, it's close to this, but not this. Let's just call it success. And reverse. Reverse comes from Django URLs import reverse. And this will be success. And here's an area where I would like to see what this looks like to make sure that these are formatted correctly. Well, I mean, they should be, but it'd be good to see them. So in our gateway test gateway, we have here was it here? Yeah, it's the Quargs is going to have this. So let's see what these look like. So we care about these two things first. We want to have Quargs of cancel URL be the index. And then we also want the success URL. So let's just leave them empty at first. And I think in the test mode, this will be like site.com. I think is what they use. Example.com. Okay. So that's what I expected. Example.com with a slash. Ooh. Hopefully that stays. Was it www? I messed that up. Oh, nope, I didn't mess it up. Good. Hopefully that doesn't ever become HTTP in like CI or something like that. That would be annoying. Cool. Well, I think that's it. And okay, not quite. We need one test. We need one test. So account, test views, and I guess we need two tests. We need not all this stuff, but I'm way over copying. So this is a GET request. This is the success URL. There is no need for this stuff. And we want a 302. So that part should be right. That passes. We don't need that function. And then this thing, we don't need the mock. And we do need a user. We want that. We want to assert that it gets a 200. And then we want to change that to a user factory because we don't actually need the user variable. Okay. %100% coverage. All right, cool. We might be okay. This will be interesting. Let's check this out really quickly. We've got a test. We've got our new view, which is a very simple template view. Got our checkout session stuff that handles the right locations. and all that. All right. Add success URL. Okay. Let us figure out. Trying to think of like, what am I trying to think of? We already have the test stuff going. So we should be able to come back here. When I said test stuff going, I mean for Stripe, right? We did this last time. We haven't changed anything. So in theory, this should still take us to like a Stripe checkout session. And it does. It's in test mode. The problem with this is you see it's going to journeyinbox.com. And that's because we, in our data, have set journeyinbox.com. So let's go to the admin. And let's do token admin. And the reason for that is because this is set at the site level. So for the purpose of this test, we're gonna go into sites. We're gonna change this. Now, here's what I don't know if this is gonna do this right. I don't know if we can include a port number. I wanna change this to localhost at port 5001. That's what I would like. I'm not sure if that's going to give us the behavior that we expect. I don't know why I restarted that. That's database data. Okay, so now coming back over here, we're going to create a new session. And now when we do site.objects.getCurrentSite, it should be like localhost 45001. With any luck, this shows up here. Yeah, cool. But it shows it up as HTTPS. If I click back, it's not going to work because it's trying to do an HTTPS call, a secure connection call to that port. And my site is definitely not responding to that. But we have the call here. We can see what it was. So the request, oh, come on. Yeah, we know you're not going to work, guys. Yeah, secure connection failed, but that's because I wasn't ready for HTTPS. But if you had gone here, you would have come back. Okay. That's cool. I'm happy with that. Okay. Now, here's the other test account path, right? So we're over here. Got Matt at testing. I think is it 4242? I think. And then none of the rest matters. What? Oh, well, okay. The year matters. 11/25. 1, 2, 3. Matt. 90210. Save my info. Don't do that. I confirm. So there's some details I need to change here. This should not say Matthew Lehman. This is like when we do a final test run, we're going to need like an icon. We're going to need to say Journey Inbox. There are things there. But I think that this should work for the test mode thing. Let's see if that goes. Check. Cool. And look, so it went. So it's not going to work. It's going to do the same kind of like can't connect to the secure because of the secure thing, but it should come out back to it's went to the right domain, localhost 5001, and success. I'm waiting for it to crash and burn. So that does confirm my flowchart, right? It's actually coming to the browser and then it's making the browser do the redirect request. So if we got rid of this, we come to here, which is excellent. Okay. I need to log into Stripe real quick and delete. I don't want to keep that subscription around. I don't know if it might have actually created it. Well, it should have. We probably can confirm, in fact, that it created a Stripe account. That's an old checkout that we had. Trying to get the dashboard back up and blah, blah, blah. Something I shouldn't be showing, most likely, but I've got 2FA, so it's not the end of the world if you saw some of that. Once I'm logged in here, you're using test data. Your real money won't be charged. Journey inbox. Okay. So here we are. Got our price that we used. And it says 1 active. 1 active subscription. That must be us that just happened. This is when we created that price. Let's go to our subscriptions. Okay. Cool. So this is nice. We got the confirmation that Stripe did the right thing. That is an active status account. The billing's auto, tax collection, it's everything we expect it to be. And then if we look at the customers, there should be a customer now with that name that would have been on the account. So I want to clean this up though. I don't actually want to keep this around. Let's go back through here. We can go to the UI and like clear this out. Cancel the subscription. Immediately, no refund. Man, I'm being brutal. Okay. Matt's canceled. And can we delete this, Matt? Okay. Delete. This will permanently remove the customer's billing information and immediately. Okay, so we could have done this backwards, or this other way around. If we cancel the customer, so that's a nice part of Stripe. There's like, you have a subscription, but you also have a customer. And so that's, I guess the idea is if you offered other products, you could have one customer that has multiple products. Well, it doesn't really, there should always be a one-for-one correspondence in my app, but your app, if you are building one, may have multiple products that you're trying to sell or multiple subscriptions of different kinds. And it will vary depending on what you have. So it's deleting the customer. I don't know how long that's going to take. 1 successful. If we refresh, do we need to refresh the page? Seems like it. Okay, no customers. So cool. I feel pretty good about this. I feel like we've got confirmation of a lot of things. We did the success and cancel, which is great. Full end-to-end test. All right, can we finish this evening with this? And then I think, where would we go from here? Well, the first thing we would do is we'd merge this code. So I will do that, assuming that we can check out this last little bit with this webhook stuff. Do I need to do that? Now, like, we've run a test. I've seen this work in the past with homeschool, and it's basically the same code as homeschool. I don't know that I need to convince myself of that. I think, What I may do, because ultimately what I need to get to, I need to be able to deploy this stuff. I need to be able to put all the keys out there. I need to be able to set the live mode. What I'll probably do to test this is I need to get all of that configuration out. I need to do that deployment, because I don't want this stuff like hanging. I don't want to have it be like, by the time we're done with everything with this user milestone, that I've got all this stuff pending that needs to go and is going to stack up. So that needs to happen to get that stuff out there. And then we could do this end-to-end integration test on the real site. And we could see the verification with the webhook logs that all of this happens. But importantly, I will make sure that we do this test such that the live mode will not be set on the real site initially. I'll have you remember there's a feature flag that controls the sign up page. So, I mean, I may create that account and do that feature flag stuff offline when nobody knows when I'm doing that, and I could confirm that nobody else is logged in, all of that sort of stuff. And then have a test account ready to show that we go through this process with the test with the live mode turned off, see the whole flow, see everything come in, see the account change status, and then at that point, presumably all I'll need to do is switch from the test mode into live mode, and we'll have confirmed that process. So I feel good about this. I'm going to hit squash and merge. I like to merge all my commits into one. So we'll do that. And do we want to declare this to be done? Let's check on the milestone here. We have like a full, we might want to sign ourselves up for one full integration test on this. Yeah. Now, I keep calling it integration. I mean end-to-end. Do end-to-end test of user sign up flow on live site. Use Stripe in test mode so we don't have to use real credit cards. Okay. And with that, I can now say that the Stripe integration is done. Now, I might come back. This is actually would be sad if I lost. Well, not lost. It'd be here for this whole time. If I had to remember issue number 7 is where I had my diagram. So let's finish this off. Let's do one last little change. Let's go back to the main branch, pull that code. Actually, two changes, because there was a PR. The first change, there's a pull request from pre-commit. Let's go ahead and merge that. Should merge just fine. Okay, pull that. And then here we go. We've got our project. Make a docs directory. Add a little bit of documentation. So make dir docs, and then over here we'll say docs. We'll say what do we want to call this? Let's say accounts.md accounts. Here is the activation flow, or the activation flow. And then I'm going to take what was in here. I left this as description. It's this whole mermaid diagram. And this way you can poke around at this if you want. It's just some markdown, or it's just some stuff in backticks. It's really about setting arrows in different directions and adding labels to it. Nothing fancy. So by doing this, it gives us like anything that's more intensive of a process. Maybe we document some more stuff in the future. I'm probably one of the things that I don't do well on the stream because I'm talking through so much code is actually sitting here writing documentation. Documentation I feel like is something that it's kind of cerebral, and thinking about word choice is a little difficult when you're also speaking. So I don't do as much of this as I should. But we should probably get in the habit of writing some of the things down. Like we could potentially write down what's our deployment, but I'm trying to get to like, what is the value of some of this? And this thing, like I referenced it a few times tonight, and the reason I created it the other day is because I was having trouble remembering all of the steps, and I was having to recreate that. And if I did this again on another project, I'd love to be able to be like, what was the flow again? And just be able to refer directly to this. So let's say add some counts documentation. So we won't be going crazy with documentation on this project, but every once in a while when there's a good nugget that we should be adding, we'll do it. And so that should bring us to the end of this. Actually, let's review the pieces that are in here, make sure I'm not missing stuff that we need to pull along into other areas. There probably are. Because what we haven't done is anything about the trial handling. Yeah, there's some good thoughts in here I don't want to lose. Did we capture? All right, I'm going to copy this for a moment and set graceful trial handling. Let's see. Here are the other notes from number 7 that were maybe not tackled with that issue. Paste those. Oh man, lost all the. Come on. I would rather have the formatted version that's already like has all the bullets and stuff instead of having to go back in and paste all that. Okay, take that from there. That's better. Okay. All right. So I'm feeling pretty good. We've got, let's see where we're at with our milestone, and then call it a night. Didn't I just finish that? Did I not close it? I didn't close it. Okay. We're declaring victory on Stripe integration. Congratulations, us. We did it. Hopefully you learned something. I mean, it's a pretty lengthy process to get that going. I think I talked a little bit about the value of if you're really like trying to get to market fast, you may want to consider projects that have already done a lot of that for you, because it's not a trivial amount of work. Where we'll go next, I think I ordered these such in a way that matched up to what we needed. Oh man, Matt, like there's no way. I don't need password reset templates. Come on. So there's no way this is all needed for this to go live. I don't buy it. What do we actually need? I do need to be able to enforce the max number of people trialing. Like, I want to be able to open the doors to multiple people. But I've mentioned that I'm using SendGrid, and SendGrid has a limited number of emails that can be sent per day before I start charging a significant bump up. And I'd love to be able to like move into a mode where I let people in, let people try it, and maybe get like a small population of people that are become regular users. And at some point in the future, that core of regular users becomes enough where I have the ability to take whatever profits I was initially getting from them, which will, it's not meant to be a very expensive service. It's mostly meant to maintain itself, and then fold that back in and say, all right, now I can raise the restriction on the number of trialing accounts because I have a steady pool of people that can help me pay I think it's like $30 or $40 a month just to handle a higher volume of email. Now, SendGrid really gets you on. I'm not knocking SendGrid. SendGrid has a nice free tier, which I think it's like 100 emails a day or something like that. But when you want to bump up, it bumps up by a massive amount of allowed emails. But there's a big price jump, and like the amount of expense that goes up on me also will go with that. So the email quantity will no longer be an issue, but the price will be an issue. So I'm trying to get to this point where I bootstrapped enough that I'm not worried about me paying out of pocket $40 just to allow a bunch of people to trial that may not commit to using the service. So if I can have a mechanism where I can keep this number low enough to let people trial, and then the ones that are really serious and sticking around will start filling the budget for this to be able to actually open it up to a larger and larger number of people. And that gives up time to get out word and make improvements. Like these people that would sign up and pay for this would be, I mean, they're literally the definition of early adopters, right? So there's probably a lot to learn about what the service can and should be and what we need to improve on it. So yeah, this one's definitely needed. What was in here? There's 2 items left in here. Add templates for login. Add template for email verification page. Okay, the email verification wasn't awesome, but it wasn't broken. So I don't think we need to do that. And I think we did the template for login, right? Didn't I? Didn't I? Template. Sign up. So no, we did not. We did sign up, not sign in. All right. Let's check it out, actually. Let's see what it looks like. Just make sure that, because I want to be able to move out this verification page. This is a future thing. This is not necessary. In fact, let's just say convert to issue. And yeah, I don't need that right now. And then I can hopefully check the box here and it won't go close the issue over there. Then we can do start this. We want to be able to log out with log out. And then we want to look at accounts login. Okay, yeah. We do need to style that one. Shouldn't be hard though. Really not a lot here. Don't want the experience to be so bad that you're staring at this for this kind of sign-in page. That's pretty poor. So that one's legit. The activation one's not legit. I don't need to do this right away. So in other words, if I've got a max cap on here of trials, I can allow some people to trial and not expire their trials right away, so that I can open the gate. I'm going to take this one out. It's a good thing to do. We're going to need it soon, but I've got some weeks so if we have like the initial trials, the people get a couple of, by being the super early adopters, you get, multiple extra weeks for your trial, then that's really on me, right? Like that's basically gifting early adopters with that experience. So I think we can clear the milestone off of that and then just do it later. So we've said we need to do this, we need to do this, because this is actually the login. Password reset templates? Heck no. We do not. Okay, if you need that page, sure, but you don't need it from day one. All right. Email template for account confirmation. I thought we did this one. There's definitely an email. Yep. Here it is. Okay. This one's done. That's nice. Account template for email template for account. We wrote this one a long time ago. Good grief. All right. This was completed in some other streaming session. I don't even remember when we did that. I mean, I go look at the git blame. Actually, now I want to know. Now I'm curious. When do we do this? Git blame. What? Okay. I wrote that issue on December 20th. Email template for account confirmation. Okay. This is definitely the email confirmation. And I wrote this back in June. I mean, it's not fancy, but it's not bad. Like, it's very simple. I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote this. This is like after. This is many months after. Maybe I just forgot that I did it. I don't know. Sometimes I write these things late. All right, so where does that get us? That gets us, that's actually kind of nice. So we're down to, we want to enforce a certain amount of trials. We want to make sure the login page is nice. And then we want to do the deployment of all this stuff to make sure that we can test this end to end to allow people to really sign up for the service. I think that's a really good short roadmap that then sets us up for a bunch of other things that we need to do. Okay. I did get to thinking. Nope. I'm trying to keep this like minimally viable that this will work. So the other thing that we will need, but not on this, is customize the Stripe checkout. Like right now, it talks about you're paying Matt Lehman, and it needs to say like journey inbox, and it needs personalization, right? So that's Stripe checkout page. But that doesn't need to be part of this particular milestone. Those are just things that we need. Then we have we'll have at that point some freedom to talk about other things. Like I think we need to, as we add more journal entries, and especially if there are more users in here, we definitely need a database index on this before that database table gets big. Yeah, there's stuff to work on there. Cool. I'm gonna call it here. Thank you all for joining. I want to say hopefully you learned something. If you could do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. I want to also, if you want to support me beyond just the like or subscribe, you can. I have a Patreon at patreon.com/mblehman. You can also subscribe here on YouTube as, well, it's not called a subscription, right? It's called something else. I have tiers that you can join if you want to support me that way. Or you could just wait until the service is online and actually get some service benefit. I also have a book that I've written on Django. So if you want to learn more about Django, you can read it for free online on my website at mattlehman.com/understanddjango, or you can buy an actual print copy for yourself if that's your thing. That would be in support of me as well, and you get some cool tool to help you learn Django better. With that, I'll bid you all a farewell, and I'll see you next time. Take care.